watching Numbskull News, and today I'm going to talk about some of the future that's quickly coming to present as far as the future of college football and all of college sports when it comes to the house case, the business side of things, the professionalism of college sports. I haven't made a ton of videos. I don't think I've made any videos about the house case or any of that kind of stuff or revenue sharing. I've touched on it, but I haven't really gone into it because there's not been a lot of answers. And there's been speculation, there's been some reporting, but Ross Dillinger dropped an article today really kind of going more in depth of things. And I'd like to thank Immaculate, some of you people who've been watching realignment stuff from many different channels know who that is. Immaculate View on X. So thank you for sending this to me. And I'm using it as fodder for my channel now. But yeah, I don't cover this stuff just because there's just too many questions and not enough answers. How do you speculate that? I mean, speculating on what schools may go to what conferences and what, the future of the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC. It's complicated. And of course, I don't get a lot of crap, right? I just come on here and talk crap and talk what I think could, should, maybe, possibly could happen in a more general term. But when you get down into the, like I said, professionalism of college sports, there is, you're talking about court stuff, you're talking about Congress, you're talking, an awful lot of BS going on. So I've kind of steered clear of it. But as we get more information and as that reveals itself through reporting and through whatever, I will touch on those and I will make videos on it. This will be the first installment of such, and this is going to be a Yahoo Sports article by Ross Dillinger, everyone's favorite, the guru of realignment, as he is now. So I hate going through articles and all that kind of stuff, but there's no real way to do it other than that, so let's do it. So the title of this article, Monumental Shift, Power Conferences Not NCAA to Control Policing Athlete Compensation. Wow, that's something new. A committee of power conference administrators took significant steps this week toward the creation of a new entity that will govern the evolving professionalized aspects of college sports, a milestone moment in the industry's history. That's a huge change. You're talking going away from the NCAA controlling everything to now the power conferences. And by the way, if you're a smart ass, well, you mean the big two? No, I mean all of them who are the new enforcers. Builders of the new framework. The transition team is made up of 2 athletic directors from each of the Big 10, SEC, ACC, and Big 12 conferences. The 4 power leagues, named defendants in the settlement, are leading the implementation of the agreement's most significant piece. The schools are permitted annually to share millions in revenue with athletes under a capped system scheduled to begin July 1st. That is huge. And that should answer a lot of those kind of questions. You're like, who's in control? Well, the power 4. It's not a power 2 or anything else. All these other podcasters want to call it. You want to be cute about it. There's a money difference, obviously, but these are the 4 autonomous conferences, the most powerful conferences in all of college sports. The Big 12's one. The ACC is one, not just the Big 10 and the SEC. Well, that transition team, during a 2-day summit, charged with operationalizing, that's an incredible word, concepts of the House settlement, inch closer to establishing a new structure to oversee, manage, and enforce the settlement-related athlete compensation system for all of the NCAA Division I. So no, it's not just the Big 10 and the SEC that's going to rule it all. They're going to do it with the ACC and the Big 12, like it or not. The newly created LLC, overseen by a CEO or executive director, is centered on a new enforcement arm to police violators of the industry's new salary cap and is expected to feature revenue sharing policies and corresponding penalty structure for violators. So this is going to be a hard salary cap. What we talked about, or what people have talked about, the $20 million salary cap. That's a hard cap. You're not allowed to go over it. So this is going to limit somewhat what the SEC and the Big Ten, or I should just say the big brand schools who make more money than everybody else, it's going to limit their spending. The transition team is expected to continue its work over the coming weeks. A final approval hearing for the settlement is scheduled for April 7th. However, even if the settlement is rejected, college leaders are prepared to move forward with compensating athletes under this new model. So it doesn't matter if the House settlement goes into effect or not, or if it's still going to get litigated, they're going to go forward with this compensation model. Doesn't matter. The transition team gathered in Washington on Sunday and Monday to further explore details around the newly created framework, which entails a three-pronged approach of enforcement: a cap management system, an NIL clearinghouse, and an investigative infractions unit. So Deloitte, I think that's how you say it, the world's largest professional services network, will operate the new NIL clearinghouse, which is charged with determining fair market value of income earned by athletes outside of the school. Deals affiliated with a booster group, or any entity deemed to be associated with the school are the only ones subject to the clearinghouse's more rigorous fair market value standard. So what I'm guessing here is that if you get a player, player A, let's say he goes to Michigan, 5-star big time kid, right? Well, he can get NIL with the clearinghouse, as far as the clearinghouse will only cover deals affiliated with booster groups, anyone deemed to be associated with the school. But let's say he gets a sponsorship with Powerade, right, on the side. Like he gets an agent, gets a sponsorship with Powerade. It pays him $2 million a year. I'm guessing that's not affiliated with this clearinghouse. That's the only thing I can guess. Ooh, penalties. Here we go. Let's get into the 20 Shades of Grey part of this. Perhaps the most notable among the transition team's decisions, the group began to finalize new policies, penalties related to the revenue sharing system, and the new entity's leadership team. Multiple penalties are under discussion for those found to be circumventing or exceeding the new salary cap, or any other rule violation, i.e. tampering. Going after the damn tampering, including school fines, revenue share pool reductions, and coach administrator suspensions. Ooh, that sounds sexy. The LLC is expected to employ a head investigator as well as a CEO or director, who, perhaps with a small team of people, will be charged with being the ultimate decision makers on infractions cases using a more timely process than one currently existing. Yeah, NCAA takes way too long. It shouldn't be an act of Congress to figure out the whole Michigan sign stealing kind of thing, for instance. Athletes whose outside NIL deals are found not to be fair market value will be ruled ineligible if they execute those deals. Outside NIL deals. I don't know. This right here needs some more clarification. As part of the settlement's terms, there is a separate court overseen arbitration system that serves as an appeal process for athletes who believe their NIL deals were unfairly struck down. That's smart. Okay, so you got a player A, red shirt rookie guy, right? 18-year-old kid gets a $2 million deal from Powerade. Yeah, how do you assess the fair market value for that? Because we all know, not all 5-star guys or young kids coming into the system, the college system, they're not all created equal. There's some guys who have these insanely big names, right? Or if you look at it this way, someone like a Caitlin Clark, who became a huge name while in college. I mean, a massive name. Well, she was getting massive NIL deals, not boosters or people related to the school itself, the school being Iowa, but outside of that, you're talking Nike stuff, you're talking all kinds of big time deals. I mean, she was making pretty good money in college. Let's just put it that way. So who decides what the fair market value is when she was kind of like a unicorn? See what I'm saying? And if whether it's Nike, Reebok, Adidas, whatever it is, Converse, Powerade, Gatorade, I mean, I don't care. Pornhub, whoever wants to sign you to an NIL deal, and it's not related at all to their university or their conference. I mean, is that what we're talking about outside NIL deals? I'm guessing so. But that's just weird as far as fair market value. It's a hard determination on what is or is not fair market value, because not all sports are equal. Not all athletes have equal branding. You know, like I said, Caitlin Clark, she had more brand appeal than most of the male athletes, if not all of them. So that's a one of one. That's a weird thing. And sometimes there's just those people that are just these huge names, even in college. I guess they're trying to keep like unlawful money going, or too much money going to this one athlete. And, you know, like maybe there's a donor or a booster for a college that has, you know, knows people within a other company and funnel money. That's the only thing I'm guessing. They don't want money being funneled in some kind of way. So I get it, but that's still tricky. And here's another interesting thing. Schools can opt out as of March 1st. That's the deadline to opt out. So that's going to be interesting to see who opts in, who opts out. I'm guessing the vast majority of Division One will opt in, but it's going to be interesting to see your lower schools, let's say, or your lower conferences, Sun Belt, MAC, whatever, you know, who's going to opt in. I don't know if they all will. I don't know if they all can. Now, the Power 4 schools, they'll all opt in. But it's going to be interesting to see who opts out. So in here, it just seems like they're trying to infuse a lot of parity, really. There's no other way to put it. In many ways, the settlement goal is to shift the payments to athletes from unwieldy outside entities such as boosters to the schools themselves, permitting universities to all share the same amount of money, of pool money, with athletes on an annual basis. The pool's cap 22% of an average of certain power conference school revenues will apply to all schools and will fluctuate based on built-in escalators and school revenue increases. And we've all seen the NCAA's projection of the year one cap being $20.5 million. But that's the weird part, right? It says 22% of an average, well, let's just say 20% of the average school revenues. Well, I have a question. School revenues are quite a bit different from the Big 12 and ACC to the Big 10 and the SEC, because those other two, the big two conferences, make the most money. So is everyone paying 20.5? Or are you paying 22% of what Big 12 schools get, 22% or 22% of what ACC schools get? Because that's not the same as Big 10 and the SEC. So I don't know where the NCAA is getting the projection of a year one cap of $20.5 million. Is that the same cap? I don't know. I guess maybe they have to have an equal cap for everybody, I guess. But I don't know. It's just weird. That shit is just freaking weird. Not everyone is in agreement, though. Apparently, it's been a target of a widespread criticism from an array of groups. The justice system. They're saying the revenue cap is anti-competitive. Well, that's going to be a problem as far as getting something passed through Congress. The Department of Education arguing the revenue distribution violates Title IX policy. I don't understand how it violates Title IX policy. If you guys have been paying attention to the money going into athletes, not just football and basketball, not just women's basketball like Caitlin Clark and her peers when she was in college, but we're talking track and field ladies, we're talking swimmers. There's some of those ladies out there making a shit ton of money. Now, does that violate Title IX because the guys aren't making the same? I haven't heard that bitching and complaining about that. So, I'm not sure why the Department of Education has a problem with the revenue distribution violates Title IX, unless you're saying that more football players will be paid more money than everybody else. Well, by the way, that's what's bringing in the revenue, you dumbasses. That's why they get the more. That's why they should be paid more than anyone else. But I digress. Hundreds of athletes will see their roster positions eliminated because of new roster limits. And even the named plaintiff in the case, Grant House, who told Yahoo Sports in December that he did not approve of some of the settlement's concepts. Well, dumbass, Mr. Grant House, what do you think is going to happen when you have revenue sharing? A lot of these schools are going to have to start cutting programs. They're going to have to start cutting scholarships because they can't afford to pay everybody. All right. The athletic departments, they don't get a piece. Frankly, they don't get money from the university itself. They don't get funded by the endowment. They don't get a part of the research dollar. Stanford can't use research dollars to buy helmets for the football team, or basketballs or nets for the women's team. They can't fund their track and field. All of this stuff has to be funded through two things: football and basketball. That's what funds everything. So if they have to spend that money, well, they're going to have to cut some programs. Because if you're paying the athletes directly, if you're going right up to the cap, 20 million, right? That doesn't mean you have to spend 20, but you're spending between 18 and 20 million just compensating athletes. That's 18 to 20 million that you cannot fund the sports of these other non-revenue sports with. So, Mr. Grant House, I say to you, you dumbass. All right, it's good these kids are getting paid, but there's a yin and yang. There's a good and a bad with everything. So, yeah, they get their money, but now there's going to be less of them getting the money. There's going to be less athletes at your school. There's going to be less sports, men's and women's. They're going to get cut. There's no way around it. Now, SEC and Big Ten, they could probably keep a lot of their other sports there through different means. Some people will use some private equity just to keep afloat. But you shouldn't use private equity to pay your bills. You should use private equity just to grow what you have, to expand on it. However, NCAA and plaintiff attorneys are confident that the California judge, good God, California judge, Claudia Wilkin, will approve the agreement. More than 50,000 athletes have filed claims to receive some of the back damages as part of a settlement. I don't agree with that. I've never agreed with this house case bullshit anyway. All right, this guy's a freaking asshat. And everybody else who sued, these 50,000 athletes, oh, congratulations. Y'all going to get, what, $50 a piece. Look, these guys are dipshits. You got an education, a free ride. You didn't have to pay for nothing. And what is a free ride with these people? With a lot of these people. What does that entail? Not just a free education. A lot of times it includes housing, books, meals. There's all kinds of ways you get compensated. Now, look, I think players should have been getting paid from the jump. They should have. The NCAA was stupid to not do that. But this is also stupid. You went through the system. You signed up. You didn't have to be there. did accept compensation in the form of education, housing, meals, all that shit. And now you're going to sue for back damages. And it's going to be a whole lot of people just like Grant House himself who didn't play football. They played in some non-revenue bullshit. Give me a break. Another group at odds with at least one portion of the settlement is the Collective Association, a group of more than 400 affiliated booster collectives directors who have been publicly critical of the settlement's NIL clearinghouse, questioning the legality of the fair market value standard. That's going to be a freaking problem, a massive problem. They are going to sue over that, you bet your ass. Members of the association spent a couple of days in Washington this week holding their annual meetings and visiting with federal lawmakers. This clearinghouse is going to be, there's going to be an issue with it. There just is. It's going to be really tough. Now, I'm not saying they can't get it passed and it's not going to be a thing. You got a lot of powerful people that are directing these collectives. A lot of very rich people. And they don't like being told how to spend their money. They don't like these universities taking control of it. And it's just weird to me that you have a university that's kind of it's kind of acting like an agency, and I don't like that at all. I understand trying to keep things fair and equal, but there's some legality questions here. And of course, we know they've been lobbying for some legislation, try to codify that whole House settlement into law. We'll see if they can get that done. I do think something like that will eventually happen. I think it will. And by the way, that doesn't mean there won't be collective bargaining. Two things can be true. And I believe anything passed by the legislation, any kind of like, because the only thing they really need is protection from future lawsuits. That's what they need. But a lot of the fine points and specifics, the players can still collectively bargain. And they're fighting for that now. So both things can be true. You can get both. Federal legislation and collective bargaining. It can absolutely happen. Now, here's something that I found quite comical. Dozens of schools, in fact, have distributed settlement contingent revenue share contracts with athletes this fall and winter. Others have relied on their booster collectives to signing athletes to contracts, inserting in those deals a clause that assigns them to a university on July 1st. Look, this whole thing of contracts, you can kiss my ass with that. It ain't worth the paper it's printed on. That's what this Wisconsin, this basically a test case with Wisconsin, right? Went to Miami after signing his little contract. It doesn't matter. Wisconsin goes to the NCAA. NCAA says, look, we ain't in charge of this anymore. You Power 4 wanted to be in charge of it. So piss off, Wisconsin. You just lost your player. Tough shit. Now they said they're going to pursue legal avenues. Well, look, anything that they paid that kid with that contract, they could probably get back. That's probably a real thing. If the kid was smart, if they gave him $100,000 signing bonus or something, he should just go ahead and write them a check right back. Just send it right back to him. Either way, Wisconsin's going to get their money back, or whatever collective gave him that money. They're going to get their money back. So there's no settlement, and you're already signing contracts. And I'm sorry, I just find that hilarious. That, we signed this contract. The contract doesn't mean anything. Who's enforcing that contract? There is no enforcement yet. They're working on it. But, and look, I am all for player movement. I didn't see anything in that article about player movement. It was about compensation. So, I think that could be worked on. But the movement thing, because here's the part about law. And this is going to be indisputable. You can't tell a kid he has to stay going to a certain school. He has the freedom to unenroll in a school and enroll in a new school. He has every right under federal law every right under Title IX, every right under any law to do that. You cannot stop a student from going to another college. If you want contracts, you got to completely separate the student and the athlete. So if you sign them up as a contract, it should be, hey, it's voluntary if you want to go to class or not. It shouldn't even matter. It doesn't matter what your grade average is, none of that. But I thought it was interesting. Now we know it's all four of the Power Four conferences that are working on this shit. It isn't just up to the Big Ten and the SEC when it comes to this level. And this is the biggest level. This is actually policing and maintaining a professional environment in football, basketball, all of the major sports. So there's no breaking away from that, is there? Anyway, the more information we get, the more I'm going to do videos on it. So hopefully you learned a little something like I did. Anyway, thanks again, Immaculate. And I'll be back with some more crap later. Bye.